It benefits a greater third party. Very interesting because we're kind of having that same thing. By the way, like talking about like the robber barons, um, I actually am curious of Josh's opinion on this. So, for example, what we hear when people push up against, like when bad press happens to Amazon or these big companies, what we hear is kind of something interesting, which is like there's this Mars talk. So it's almost like, yeah, I'm really, really rich, but because I'm really, really rich, I'm going to get us to Mars. So it's cool. Just keep giving me money, but we're going to get to Mars, guys. Isn't that great? That's what I've been thinking about recently, because now Jeff Bezos is now going to Mars too. He's got the rocket. He's working on the rocket that also lands and takes off again. And I was wondering what you're thinking of that is that a distraction, or just kind of like something that we could all rally behind? It's almost beyond nationalistic pride too. It's almost like a global pride, which is like, great, well, we all use Amazon, but at least Jeff is making sure that we're all going to make it up to Mars. What do you guys think about that?
Like it's the ultimate get out of jail free card.
I don't know. I don't know how to take it. It's a weird it's kind of a weird phenomenon, because it's like people don't get into the fact that there's, it's essentially a monopoly now, Amazon. There's no competitor to it from very far away. Um, but I mean, it is cool that they are, in today's day and age, that they're using stuff like that. I would love to talk to some type of historian that maybe there's precedents where stuff like that is happening. I feel like our country does that a little bit too, back in history, where it's like the moonshot, let's go. And everybody was rallying behind this, right? And when everybody's rallying behind that, you're not really noticing what else is going on in your country.
I mean, Justin, it's a really interesting observation because Musk, space, who did you just mention? Bezos, space, world's top hedge fund manager, who I really like a lot, Ray Dalio, deep sea. Do you all know about that?
Oh, there you go. No, I didn't know that one.
Deep sea, like the deep, because, there's the amount of deep ocean that's been undiscovered dwarfs the earth by comparison. It's
right.
Incredible. So Justin, what an interesting question. Like, is there something to that all these world's most rich, influential people all are going to space or the deep sea? It seems
Richard
like you're
Branson. Yeah.
What did you say, Josh?
Richard Branson, space, Virgin Galactic, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to that? Before it was supposed to be we're all getting like Southwest airline flights to the moon or stuff like that, right? That was the goal. There's no talk of that anymore. Now we're just all going to Mars. Right?
They were going to have space tourism, and they still talk about it. Didn't Branson get something? But he said he'd be the first up there, and I don't think he was. But I thought that they were. Or maybe it was the Russian space program. Someone was allowing some people to go up for $1 million, I think.
But I guess we could say our robber barons are better than theirs, right? Like these guys are awesome. Like the type of stuff that they're coming up with, it's extremely captivating, the kind of stuff that they're working on, for sure.
If I can ask you guys a question, would we agree that social media was portrayed as a way to bring people together, right? Yeah. But they're saying in the country, I think it's 80% of people believe social media is bad right now. So I think most people by the numbers are agreeing that social media actually pulls us apart. And so is it this simple, that the basic premise that is promised, you can count on the exact opposite? My question, and I'm going like parallel approach here, but I guess that's the first question. And the second one is, if so, would that be that this whole AI automation, improving the Amazon, everything, so the computers can do more, that's to make life better and to make it better for the workers, better for people? Is it just polar opposite, that it's just going to make less jobs, worse for the workers, worse for the humans? Is it that simple?
I think that was a precedent that was set before. And so the question is history going to repeat itself, right? maybe not. I don't know. But it is interesting that during the Industrial Revolution, that is exactly what the dialogue was. And that was the rally cry is let's do it this way. I mean, Taylor wasn't necessarily, he wasn't just doing the stopwatch and, you know, being a cheerleader. I mean, they were being pretty empirical with the way that they were making people do this kind of stuff too. Like the workers hated it. Right. And then actually it went into the movies where Charlie Chaplin's making fun of it in some of it in modern times where there's some really funny scenes of that where it kind of jumped the shark, right? Where they're like, wait a second, this doesn't seem to be, the humanism of it is leaving. And that's the interesting thing is, does that slogan that it's going to help you later start arising when the humanism of it is gone? I don't know if humanism is the right word for that, but if you know what I'm talking about, like the human qualities of the people involved with it start saying, wait a second, is this that great for me after all? And then after that, they start saying, well, it's going to be cheaper for you at least, right? I mean, because I think we're looking at things too automated in the art world, at least based on my viewpoint. I'll look back at people like a guy like Bruce Conner who makes these abject art sculptures by taking all this used stuff and creates these crazy, really cool collages. And I'm looking at things as like human made, feels like the value of that is growing exponentially right now, right? So it's like automation's great, but now people are starting to say, you know what? You go to, you know, some of these stores to get your furniture, right? And you go and look at the products and how that furniture is made and that it's in all of our apartments, right? And then people start saying, or house, you know, for you fancy guys, houses. And then when we start looking at our own tables, right? You start saying, you know what? I want that like classic table made out of like real wood, right?
Yeah.
And the question is automation that great in general, right? Like for everything.
Yeah.
I guess is one of the questions.
Yeah, we end up craving those old type of things. It's hard. I think it's interesting because just reading over before this talk, the formal definition of Fordism, which is an extension of Taylor's own different take on it. It's almost like the whole problem is that we're missing the last step, because the last step of Fordism is, you know, you increase the efficiency of your workers, you make more product, you make more money. The last step in the set of steps is to pay your workers more, to improve your workers' life. That was the whole point. So kind of a critical step that we're missing, because I think if we automate all these things and whatnot, increase production, people are always talking about increased production, which we have exponentially increased it, then it should lead to less work hours, shorter work week,
right,
and cheaper goods for everyone. I don't know if you could argue that's true.
Yeah. And
Josh, do you feel some countries that sometimes get a good reputation for maybe high quality work output, but also high quality of life, like more in balance? You don't necessarily hear our country come up in that conversation, but sometimes you hear places like Sweden, Denmark, Germany, where they're pretty world renowned for certain products, but they're also pretty well known for like worker protections and balances. Do you feel like, have they got the equation better pinpointed over there?
Oh gosh, I'm not qualified to say that. I'd be interested to know what you guys would think about work-life balance. Maybe, I mean, because that's the joke here in America. They say, oh yeah, if we lowered the work week to 20 hours, 2 weeks later, everyone would go get a second job. So maybe it's just a priorities type thing or human nature.
Yeah, and I think we should probably drop the annotation that we're not experts on anything for anybody listening to this. We're just hypothesizing stuff.
What do you guys think? Do you think that just even in terms of the arts and everything, I mean, different,
you know, I think something interesting you were saying, like as far as benefiting the worker at the end, what's interesting about Ford is when people were working for him, one of the incentives was they got a car. So if you worked for him for, I don't know how long it was, but you were working towards getting your own car. So you're working on the car and then you'd get your own car. And of course, back then, there weren't many cars at all. So this was a really precious type of thing. I think that's pretty fascinating. And I think as a general mentality, as far as energy outside of what the big companies do, energy of human labor, it's like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Well, okay, so there's a quote that you'll never be hungry if you work at a restaurant, right? You'll never go hungry if you're working at a restaurant, right? Which makes a lot of sense. And I think you could extrapolate that to, like, if you want to live in a really nice house, go work in architecture or along those lines, because you'll know how to make your own house better and things like that. And I think maybe it should be a mindset of people's focus in life to focus on things that they really would like for themselves and become an expert of that, to kind of create your own domain, maybe as a counterbalance to those other things. Rather than expecting, because clearly when the money gets in the hands of the people at the higher up, they have all these other people that they have to give their money to, right? And all this pressure from the investors and all these other types of people. So, maybe, I bet these people in their heart of hearts wants to help other people out, but then you have all these other people saying, okay, now we're making all this money. Where's mine? I gave you, this to make it happen, right? So I think that some of the other influences might impact that at the end of the day, as far as like the community of capitalism, right? But I think on the individual level, it might be focus on things that you want for yourself, and then in those industries you can maybe make it happen. This is a new thought.